All right, and welcome back to another episode of the Indy Investor Pod. We are Indy Investors talking Indy investing. And what we like to do in this podcast is just talk all about Indianapolis investing. So some of the goods, some of the bad, some of the what's going on type of stuff. So really it's what we like to do is just dig into what is happening here in Indianapolis as far as real estate investing goes. And with that, let's get on with the show. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Indy Investor Pod. My name is Brian Snyder, and I am joined by Brett Snodgrass today. How is it going, my man? It's been a little while since you've been on an episode with us.
I know. I'm doing fantastic. Enjoying my freedom and enjoying you guys breaking records.
That's good. It's been a good time to be in real estate, I feel like. So as long as you got the inventory, I guess that's what it kind of comes down to and things. And we'll talk about that a little bit today. And really what we're going to do today is we're going to kind of have a mailbag episode. So we've been, fielding a lot of questions from investors, seeing a lot of activity on Facebook with some stuff that people have been talking about. So we just thought it was appropriate, and we never really thought about this before, but probably every now and then it would be appropriate for us to do just kind of a mailbag episode on answering just kind of the random questions that get asked. Maybe they're not, long enough to do a full episode on, but there are questions that come up and things. So we're just going to kind of take it, a couple questions at a time. We'll get through as many as we can, kind of in a half hour with Brett and myself. And I know he and I are kind of long-winded at sometimes, so we might get to 4 or 5 of these questions, but no, I thought it was appropriate to just kind of deal with some of this stuff. So, Brett, before we get into that though, man, how are you doing? Are you surviving, being out of the business and you're just doing nothing now, right? You're obviously remodeling your office and
Yeah.
things like that.
I know. I got these lights behind me. We're actually making a backdrop because we got some things that I'm really interested in, and I enjoy helping and bringing value to people. I think that's my gift, and I enjoy speaking into people's lives, and that's exactly what you guys do in the Investor Pod. That's what I do on my other podcast, the Real Estate Investing with a Purpose podcast. And I'm going to be creating some content, just really helping people. And it's really going to be around really the topic in the last 4 months that I've been doing. And that's number one, developing freedom. And we talk about it a lot, right? Hearing financial freedom, that's something that is always out there, especially in the entrepreneurial world. However, very rarely do I actually see business owners actually step into that, right? And I start to ask those questions, why is that? So I'm actually giving a presentation this week about that topic and why people don't step into the financial freedom role. And it's something I'm really passionate about. And so I've been thinking about that. I've been hanging out with the family a lot. I've been doing some camping trips down in Tennessee, and it's been fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. Excited for it's kind of funny that you mentioned that that's what everybody's kind of goal is, to get that financial freedom part. And that's what everybody wants. Why are you getting into real estate investing? To have financial freedom, or why do you invest in general? That's to have financial freedom. But it's a lot harder than people think to step out of or step away from some of the things that you're used to doing on the day-to-day basis, because you want to have control of it, and it involves my money, so I want to be involved. I want to have a decision, so it takes a lot to kind of step away from that. So I'm excited to see what you're doing with that, and just all the content that you're going to be putting out there for that is going to be good stuff. And I think it's very well needed. So thank you for that, Brett.
Yeah, no
So,
problem.
all right. So one of the first questions, we can kind of dig into this, like I said, is kind of these frequently asked questions, kind of a mailbag episode here. One of the first things is just, how are evictions going in Indianapolis? Can you even do evictions? I thought you couldn't do them until next year, and things like that. So I'll just kind of give you my take on kind of what's happening with us and stuff. But so we have anybody that kind of falls into 2 categories for us. So anyone that we're not doing a lease renewal on, maybe they're on a month-to-month lease and we're not doing a lease renewal on, or somebody that is not paying, we have went ahead and filed evictions on them. And have actually got some of those writ of possessions granted through the court. It seems like from everything we've seen so far is that the courts in Indianapolis, the judges are kind of leaning on, are the people that are being evicted, are they showing proof of the CDC guidelines? So that main thing is basically, are they showing that they have applied for assistance, and and they haven't got it, and that's the reason they're not paying, or whatever it may be. So that's been our case. We've had 2 successful evictions so far. We have 3 more that we have filed. So I'm not saying this is going to happen for everybody. I'm not saying that hey, you should go ahead and just, bombard your, lawyer and file every eviction. I'm not sure how it's happening, but it's working for us. But we've had, we were making sure that we have all of our paperwork in place, making sure that we are, on the same page with our lawyer, and just everything like that. So it seems like the judges are that's the way they're going about it, making sure that the people that are being evicted on that they are following the CDC guidelines and they have applied for this and they're trying for that. And if not, if they can't show proof of that, then the eviction is going through for us. So that's the way it's kind of happened. There's also, those cases too. I will advocate for, doing some cash for keys. We've been very successful for that. We've talked about in the past and things. So, Brett, do you have any input on that, or just, some tips for anybody that's kind of going through that right now with, maybe tenants that aren't paying or have just said like, hey, I'm not going to pay because you can't evict me till next year?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you guys are the ones that kind of running the property management and the side of the business, and I'm excited that we're starting to get at least back to some sort of normalcy when it comes to evictions. It's always a hard process, especially as a landlord, to evict someone, especially during this time. So we've talked about on the show before is just be sensitive to what the tenant's going through. They're probably going through a hard time too. But also there's other tenants that are just trying to take advantage of what is going on, which we've also had in our scenarios as well. So we've been, as far as what we've been doing is we're just, kicking the ball down the field, trying to just, file the evictions, go through the right process and get our paperwork lined up, do everything the correct way. And we've had some success with some of the evictions. But before that, obviously, is, talk to the tenant, build that relationship, see what's going on. Can you do a cash for keys? That's always easier. And can you work out some sort of agreement with the tenant is what I always recommend. And we've been able to do that as well. So we start there. If it doesn't work, we go to the eviction. And sometimes those do work. But if the tenant knows what they're doing, I guess, and they're a professional at it, then you might have problems. But we've been having some success here lately. So
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, that's kind of our, the evictions are kind of our last resort, type thing. We've tried to do some other stuff in place of just even talking to the communicates, or talking to the tenants, communicating with them. And even if they're making an effort and communicating with us, that's the number one thing. If they're doing that, then we're good with everything and we'll work with you. But in some of those cases, we do have to file the eviction. And when you have a certain amount of doors, there's going to be a percentage that, are going to fall through the cracks of that. So, yeah, so just a tip from us, I would say go ahead and talk to your lawyer, make sure you're on the same page with them, and go ahead and file if you're at that point, and just see what happens. And if some of them might work, some of them might not, but at least it's a start. So, and the next question I have here for us is, so I see a lot of people talking about maybe and asking questions about, hey, I want to start investing in Indianapolis. What should I do first? Should I work with a wholesaler? Should I work with a realtor? Who should I work with, or how do I find deals? My take on it is just like a deal's a deal. Like, work with whoever's going to send you a good property. I mean, that's how I am. I mean, we buy properties from, direct to seller, from other wholesalers, from realtors. We'll buy from anybody and everybody. It just comes about, what's the good deal? Where's that good deal coming from? I don't really care where it's coming from, I should say. I just want a good deal. That's what I'm looking at. And one of the things I think that really comes down to is it doesn't matter who you're working with. Yes, you have to be able to trust them and you have to be able to understand them, but you need to make sure you're doing your own due diligence and looking at your own numbers. And really what that comes down to, especially if you're out of state, even the in-state people, make sure that you have your good boots on the ground. So if you're not assessing them in person on your own, make sure the people that are looking at them for you know exactly what you want, know exactly what you are looking for, know your numbers, and can do that right along with you. And so I don't really think, from my viewpoint and my kind of where I come from, is it doesn't really matter where the deal's coming from. It's who's looking at it for you and who's assessing it for you. That's what it's going to come down to. So, you can have wholesalers that are going to, maybe fudge the numbers, or the numbers aren't going to be accurate. They're going to give you Fountain Square numbers when it's really south of the river. And, that stuff's going to happen. And realtors can finally kind of come in that same thing of like, hey, you can, you need to, I think you should buy this house because it's in this neighborhood and here are the comps for it. That's all good. And that can happen as long as you have the comps, but you need to be able to run that stuff on your own, kind of know where your numbers are coming from. But really comes into the boots on the ground of, hey, making sure that here's what I think the rehab's going to be on this, and knowing what the true comps are for those certain areas and things. So some wholesalers have that information. Some don't. Some realtors are great at giving that information and understanding it. Some realtors aren't. So, like I said, it kind of comes into like, it doesn't matter where the deal's coming from, making sure that it's what you want. That's what you should pay attention to the most. So, Brett, what's your take on that, man?
Yeah, I think that you're exactly right. For us, we don't really care who we buy from, and it's just we know how to look at a deal. We know how to comp a deal. We know if it's a good deal as an investor. I think that's what you need to focus on first. So you need to figure out, hey, what are the good areas that I want to invest in? What's a good deal look like? And just so figure that out first. And then what I would do is number one, start meeting other wholesalers, getting on their lists, and getting their deals sent to you, and just to kind of go through the deals, comp them, and figure out if they are a good deal. But I think you're exactly right. Having a good boots on the ground is so important because that's what we have, right? If we get a good deal sent to us from a wholesaler, we have someone go look at the property literally the same day, and we don't really take the wholesaler's word for it, not even the pictures. Honestly, we get our own information, we take our own pictures of that property, and we do our own due diligence. And if it's a good deal, I'll be honest, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say this, but it could be the wholesaler with the worst reputation in the world. But if they have a good deal and I've done my due diligence and we go through a title company and the title's clear, yeah, I don't care. We're going to buy that deal, right?
Yeah.
That's just my take. But it's so important to have a neutral party, a neutral title company, a neutral person that isn't on the wholesaler side. They're on your side. They want your invested interest, right? The best for you. That's who I would definitely have on my team as my boots on the ground. As far as realtors concerned, just make sure they're investor friendly. That's just really important. What I mean by that is, there's a difference between a retail property that looks beautiful and shiny objects and just amazing everything and kitchens and just beautiful versus an investment property. Because I've had a lot of people say, "Man, you should buy this property. It's so beautiful," and my answer is like, I don't care if it's beautiful or not. Is it a
Yeah.
good investment? you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the
So
case. That we're looking for a lot of things that we want the value add. We don't want the the turnkey thing. That's not necessarily what we're looking for. If it's for the right price, of course we'll take it down. But that's why we want something we can add value to. And that's why we're getting it maybe at a discount and stuff. So a lot of the stuff what you said was spot on with kind of working with wholesalers. And really, if we're talking about working with a realtor, just like take out that word wholesaler and replace it with realtor. And it's the exact same thing of making sure they're kind of they're working with you, or they're even that kind of that neutral field of like they can analyze comps not just to make a sale but to just make sure you're getting what you need to and stuff. So really important. Next one on my list is how do you investors are kind of asking of like, so inventory's been a little low lately. I feel like it is starting to pick back up. Just throw that in. But when inventory has been low over the last couple of months, like how do you stay on the top of everybody's list, and how do you stay competitive with your offers and what you're doing with that? So, man, and this question kind of came through, not really a couple people asked me this question, but somebody asked me a question last week of, "Hey, Brian, I just wanted to reach out. Are you guys still like getting properties? I haven't really seen much from you." Yeah, we're getting a ton of, we're getting a ton of properties. But the thing of it is like, we've been able to sell our properties without like sending it out there. Like, some of our properties we've been selling before we even have to blast them out. We're able to connect them with a buyer right away. So what my suggestion is, if you are somebody that is actively looking to buy and you have your typical people, or your handful of people, or your list of people that are sending you properties, or even if you're on a bunch of different lists, make sure you're reaching out to them and saying like, "Hey, my name is, I'm letting you know that I'm looking for properties right now. Even if you haven't done a deal before, and I gotta be like, hey, this is exactly what I'm looking for. Here's my criteria. If you get anything, let me know right away." So I know people that are working the dispositions, and I know Randy's doing this for us, and other teams are doing this as well. Is they do their best to reach out to them, reaching out to the buyers and updating their criteria and things like that. But when the market's hot and the market's super competitive like it is now, don't be afraid as a buyer to reach out to your people that are sending you deals and updating your own criteria and letting them know you're still actively looking. Because like I said, at this point right now, a lot of times we don't have to we don't have to email blast out our properties. We don't have to put a property on Facebook because we can sell it without doing that, because we know exactly what our buyers are looking for. But there can be people that slip through the cracks of, they're looking for a deal, they're ready to buy tomorrow, but they don't get to see that deal sometimes. So make sure you are updating your criteria and kind of being proactive with that as well. And that's something that I know, Brett, you've always done that in the past, of just working with people that are bringing us deals and trying to find deals, of just reaching out and basically like, hey, let you know, just like, I'm looking for another 3 deals this month, or here's my criteria, here's what I'm looking for. Do you have anything right now, or do you see anything coming? So what's some tips that you have for investors out there on that?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. You need to continue to reach out. A lot of times we get complacent and we get lazy. Uh, and I'll be honest, like if you're working with a wholesaler, a lot of times, you just be in conversation with someone and then you find out what they're looking for. And then you look at your inventory and you're like, oh, I got a property that is coming up that probably is going to meet what you're looking for. And then you just sell it to them, and you wouldn't have done that if you didn't have that sort of conversation with them, right? So again, it's so important to reach out. And Ronnie works with a lot of wholesalers on our team, and I told him when he took over that role, is I'm like, hey, you're going to have to continuously reach out. They're not going to just bring you the deals all the time. um, so he's constantly touching people, constantly seeing what they have, constantly letting people know, hey, we have some money, we're looking for a couple of more deals this month. And that's just something that I encourage other investors to do as well. And that's probably why we're selling some of ours that don't hit the market, is because Randy's having a
Mhm.
conversation with someone and finds out, hey, I'm looking for a 3-bed 2-bath on the west side of Indianapolis. And he said, oh, we have that. And this is the first time I've actually seen our company. We've been able to assign some contracts, and we've done a little bit of that before, but we've done, a few here and there in the last couple of months. And I haven't done that before. And it's kind of interesting that, we're actually getting to a point where we are signing some of our contracts, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I
Coming from
always
our standpoint, our model is like, we want to take it down and we want to clean it out. And we want to be able to do that. But when inventory has been low and people have been just, they've been hungry for properties, it's not worth it for us. We're not used to like kind of sticking to our model. Just like, yeah, we can make this, if we can make this profit on it, like, yeah, let's just sell it, we'll just assign it and do that. And so in that case, sometimes we don't have to send properties out. Sometimes all of our buyers aren't seeing all of our properties and things, because that's just it. I've had this conversation with Randy the other day. If he's doing his job right, we don't have to email blast out our property. We don't have to send out our properties. We're connecting them with our buyers right away. So yeah, make sure your people that are sending you deals are updated on what you want. And that's kind of the big thing on like being able to get the properties if you're actively looking right now.
Yeah. And I think we always, sometimes, no matter where the market's at, we find ourselves complaining about where it's at. Literally last year, probably at this time, we were sitting on 70 plus properties in inventory, and we were saying, "Oh, wow, we have so many properties to sell." And some of them are on hold. And then now, if you would have told me 5 months ago, 6 months ago, when COVID was hitting, and our inventory be low right now, I would say, hey, sign me up. So it's funny that sometimes, as wholesalers, we complain, got to get more properties, got to get more inventory. But it's actually a good thing. I'm excited about where the market's at. It's not going to stay like this for long, for years. It's a cyclical. Everything is cyclical, right? So excited. And yeah, but I'd say just reach out to us or reach out to someone and just continuously touch them, right? Just like we do with our sellers. You have to do the same thing as investors with wholesalers or realtors, just saying, hey, got any properties? And sort of like that.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely a time to be proactive with that kind of stuff. So yeah, great stuff, man. So next one is kind of, I've had a few people kind of reach out and pick my brain about how to market for their own leads. And this is something that is always a little bit tricky. And I always kind of, and whenever I have this conversation, I'm usually completely honest with it. So I thought it was worth, you know, bringing it up on here too, of like, if an investor is kind of like, I'm kind of tired of paying, maybe my realtor commissions, or I'm tired of, seeing a wholesaler making, 7 grand on a property that I'm buying, or 10 grand, or whatever it may be. I'm just going to start marketing for my own leads and start marketing for my own properties and stuff. That's a great strategy. I think you can 100% do that, but know that that's a big task in itself, and that's a business in itself, of being able to market for leads, be able to be competitive in this market when you have just a ton of people doing their own lead generation and things as well. You're competing against a lot of people, so you can definitely 100% be successful with it, especially if you're looking for, just a few buy and holds a year, or a few flips a year and things like that. But know that if you're looking to pick up, multiple properties, and you're doing your own marketing, that it's pretty tough. I think it's a lot tougher than what people expect when they start doing that, of like, oh, I can send out some mail, and I can do some texting, or I can do some Facebook ads and things like that. I think it's a great way to find some of your own properties and things. But just be cognizant, I guess, that there are, I don't even know the count of, maybe 100 people doing that same thing, going after that same property, send the same, direct mail, or send that same text to those sellers, and kind of having those lists and things. So it all comes down to being able to create your own list, being able to find, those people that possibly are ready to, are going to need to sell their property. But then within that list, you're going to have multiple people that have that same list, or that found those same people. So being able to market to them, being able to get your brand out there, be able to get your message out there, and be able to do that. So a lot of times what I see is, from people I've talked to in the past that have started doing their own marketing, I think it's honestly about a 25% rate of people that continue to do their own marketing. And it's about 75% of the people that are like, nope, I'm done with that. I would rather go ahead and just pay that, $7,000 assignment fee to my wholesaler, because they know that's their business. That's what we do each and every day. That's what we're in the business of. So sometimes it's better off, paying that assignment fee, or paying us to find that property for you, versus, going out there and doing your own marketing and stuff like that. So like I said, it ends up being a little bit tougher than what people think it is, because it is like a whole business in itself, and it is like a whole thing they need to take on. So I know, Brett, you've had this conversation with, investors and stuff in general as well, of just like, oh, why am I going to pay Brett for, getting me this property? I'll just go ahead and do some marketing and stuff like that. So what do you, and then what are you guys doing? Are you guys doing direct mail, the texting, teach me how to do it and I'll do it. But even if we can give you the formula, we can tell you exactly how we do it. We're very transparent about that kind of stuff, but it still comes down to being able to generate those leads, being able to work those leads, and be able to close on those leads. It's a little bit tougher than what people think.
Yeah, definitely. So it is a business. It's a business in itself. I mean, there's a reason why we do what we do here, but we don't do a lot of other things. We don't fix and flip a lot of properties, or do a lot of buy and hold, or we have this huge management company as well. There's a reason for that. Is because this takes a lot of work, and it's a lot of time. And I was on a podcast about a month or so ago, and I think some people don't realize exactly what it takes. And let's just talk about the money part of it, for example. So you could buy from a wholesaler and pay a $7,000 assignment fee. And so I was on this podcast, and I said, how much money do you think it takes to get one deal when you're doing all this marketing and texting and direct mail and all that? And it was a real estate investor, and they said probably about $500, I don't know, something like that. And I said, actually, it costs maybe $3,000 sometimes to get that one deal, right? So it's not like you're going to be paying that money, whether it's through marketing or through an assignment fee. It might be a little bit more in the assignment fee. Obviously, that's how we make money. But that's just the money part of it. Now take the time part of it, right? And there's a whole system involved on how fast we have to get back to people, right? On how many times to follow up with people. They say it takes like your 7th follow-up to actually get that one deal. So are you going to want to have this, rental portfolio over here, plus maybe you got a day job, plus in the evenings, you're taking phone calls and following up with someone 7 times to get that one deal, plus paying a few $1,000s for that deal. I don't know. It just sounds like a lot of work, and it is. And what I've seen people do is once they start down, maybe they turn it into a business.
Mhm.
Maybe they have their own wholesaling business one of these days. But I would say it is a lot of work. It's a big system. So I would rethink it honestly, unless you're going to want to have a pretty good business and you're going to want to do this full time. Then I'd say, hey, maybe it's worth a shot.
Yeah, I think for those little deals like the one-offs, I know when people are, driving, they're checking on their rental portfolio and they say, "Oh man, there's a house right beside this that I would love to buy too," and I want to. How do I get in contact with them? Ronnie and I did an episode. I forget what episode it was. It was not long ago on just like how to use Deal Machine and PropStream to be able to do those one-offs. I think that's a great route for investors to go, unless, like Brett said, unless you're ready to kind of turn this into a business of being able to market for your own leads and kind of do a little bit bigger and be ready for the scale of that. Kind of the one-offs, maybe want to use PropStream and Deal Machine and things like that are a great way to get in contact with sellers and just kind of do those one-offs here and there and things when there's a property in the neighborhood that you're already investing in that you like. So awesome stuff here. Brett, I do have one more question. I know we're running a little bit short on time. I got one more question, but it's for those people that are kind of, if they want to, they're into real estate investing and they've, they now have a pretty good rental portfolio going, or they're flipping some houses, or they're selling their leads and doing some wholesaling, whatever it may be. And they've decided like, hey, I want to make the jump. I want to get out of my day job. And now I want to be able to turn what I'm doing into a business. So what's kind of maybe a big thing that they need to kind of consider when they kind of ready to make that jump and they're moving from like turning the investing into like maybe a hobby or a side thing into hey, this is my lifestyle now. This is my business. This is what I want to be doing. So what's some advice you have for somebody like that?
No, that's a great question. Yeah, and so I've been doing real estate for 13 years. In the first 7 or 8 years, I basically was just kind of a one-man show. Didn't really have a business, and then I learned how to turn it into a business, and that's where we are today with the team. Number one, I got with a business coach. I think having you don't have to have maybe a business coach, but someone that has started a business before, that knows the function of a business, that knows the pieces of the puzzle, I think is really, really important, and they can help you put the puzzle together. And that's exactly what a business is. It's trying to figure out the different pieces and then putting it together into a business format. So number one is just planning and figuring out what you want out of the business, and that could be your why, the purpose behind the business. What do you want to achieve? Some people want just to make a lot of money and be uber successful, and they start out doing that way. Some people want to get out of their job and just to have their business replace their income. Some people want financial freedom, where they just want a bunch of rentals so they can have 10,000 a month in cash flow and they could travel. I don't know. So you got to figure out what you really want and the purpose of the business. And then once you know the purpose and the why behind it, then the planning comes. And we sit down every year, Brian and I, or the rest of the leadership team of our business, and we plan, right? And we have a one-page plan, is what we call it, and everything is on that plan. It starts off with our core values about here is who we are, here's what we want people to see us as, and we're not going to break. These are like the laws of our organization. We're not going to break these. And and then has the purpose of our business. But then we have long-term plans and goals. We have medium-term plans and goals, and we have short-term. So the long-term is like 10 years down the road. Like, where do you want to be at 10 years down the road or 30 years down the road? And then we break that up into chunks. Then we got 5 years, and then we got 1 year. What are we going to do next year? And that's really the purpose of every year when we sit down for a visionary meeting, is like, we're getting ready to do that, is like, hey, what do we want to do for 2021? What do we want to accomplish? And then here's our big goals. And then we even break those down further into 90-day goals. And then we take those 90-day goals and break them down in the monthly goals. So we take this huge elephant and we just start chopping it up and taking bite-sized chunks. And that's the plan of the organization. And it's hard to do. It takes a lot of thinking power. You can't be distracted. And, I would just recommend getting away for a couple of days and really thinking about what you want and drawing out this plan. And I highly, highly recommend, if you've never done this before, is have someone help you through it. And so you can bounce these ideas off of them. So I bought an RV recently, and I'm excited about that. But I've never traveled with an RV before. So my family and I, we went to Tennessee. We took the RV down there. We started camping. But traveling with an RV is different, honestly, than traveling normally, right? So let's take you're taking this big trip on your RV. Like, you actually have to plan a lot more traveling with your RV than you would if you were just driving somewhere, right? The places that you stop, you can't go to a normal gas station. You got to kind of plan that out, and plan stops along the way, and just things like that. So I kind of relate it to that. You got this big destination, but then, hey, we're going to stop here, and here's what we're going to accomplish here, and we're going to settle down here for a little while. So I don't know. That's probably a stupid story metaphor, but
No, I like that analogy as you just went through that. You're swapping some stories with me on like, yeah,
yeah.
on what happened and stuff. So, no, man, that's good stuff. I think you really summed it up great, and like kind of thinking of that big picture and then kind of scaling it back to go from your lifetime goal to 10-year, then 5-year, and then 3-year, 1 year, and then quarters, then monthly, weekly, daily. And that's how we all set it up, and a great resource for somebody that is looking to kind of do that and they're in that model. I definitely read the book Traction by Gino Wickman. The entrepreneurial operating system as well is a good resource. The EOS system, just looking into those things are good ways. He kind of breaks it down for you and kind of helps it along. And then there are some, EOS coaches or business coaches or goal setting coaches that can help you along with that as well. So, Brett, thank you so much for joining me today, man. Really appreciate the insights and just kind of what you've provided here. So it's a good time in Indy investing right now. So excited to be a part of it. Hopefully, we've been able to help you guys out with some education stuff as well through here. Just keeping you informed on what's going on in the city, or what can go on with your business, or what can go on with investing in general. So always happy to help. Like I said, this was a kind of a mail, they call it a mailbag episode. I think I do want to start doing these we need to do them every 30 episodes or whatever, because there are a lot of questions that we field and maybe they're not big enough to be a whole episode, but we can kind of break it down this way. So let us know how we can help at all. We're always willing to do that. We are Indy Investors talking Indy investing. And with that, we're going to get out of here for the Indy Investor Pod. Take care.